What Hedera Hashgraph HBAR's token just did, ladies and gentlemen, is unbelievably bullish. We've been speaking about the fact that Hedera is in a phase 2 for a while now. What is phase 2? Don't worry, we've got you covered. And it's very typical when you break into phase 2, and this is why we cover this stuff, because it is so relevant. And on days like what we've had today or over the weekend, we can keep a level head, having that broader trajectory for where it's going technically. It's very common when you break into phase 2, which is at the point that you take your phase 1 or your accumulative range resistance, that you'll come back and retest it as support. And Hedera has just done that, and now it's on that broader phase 2 trajectory, like we can show you hundreds of examples of charts doing prior. We will show you some today and relate that to where Hedera Hashgraph, of course, is. It's extremely bullish what's taking place, ladies and gentlemen. I think there's a lot of market manipulation going on. On Friday, we had the announcement of tariffs from Trump, 25% on Mexico and Canada due to the illegal alien issue. And ultimately, since then, Canada responded. Mexico now sort of bowing down to Trump. I think Canada will fall in line. There's going to be a resolution from this. But we saw, over the past 24 hours, $2 billion, the most liquidations we've ever seen in the cryptocurrency space over a 24-hour period. More than FTX, more than, of course, the 19 events of March 2020. And we've seen an epic recovery. And I think there's a lot of manipulation going on here. Coincidentally, just in the past few hours, the crypto czar, David O. Sachs, has now came out and said he's going to be speaking. David Sachs, appointed by President Trump as the AI and crypto czar, will host a press conference tomorrow, which is the 4th of February at 2:30 p.m. ET time. The event, located at the Dixon Senate Office building in Washington, D.C., will focus on discussing strategies to ensure U.S. leadership in digital asset ecosystem. Key figures such as Senate Banking Committee Chairman Tim Scott, amongst others, will also participate. This couldn't be more timely. And we can see what the price of HBAR has done since then. And we've always spoken about, after taking this phase 1 base, you'll often retest it as resistance. Let's talk about phase analysis, because we cover it to death, and then we'll relate it all to Hedera Hashgraph and why what has taken place is exceptionally bullish and going to set us on a broader uptrend. So the way I like to look at markets, I teach it with my Patreons, is through the lens of phase analysis. It dictates that markets move in this kind of wave-like fashion, and we can identify each phase of that market and ultimately be able to work out what we should do on the back end of that. Should we be buying an accumulation? Okay, now we're in an uptrend, we should be holding. Is it topping out? Do we need to get out for a downtrend, etc., etc.? Markets will consistently move in this kind of manner because they are driven by human beings, and human beings often do the same things over and over again. So we have 4 phases. Phase 1 is a base, phase 2 is an uptrend, phase 3 is a top, phase 4 is a downtrend. Wyckoff very much looks at this through Wyckoff accumulation, markup, distribution, downtrend. And when we apply that to the Hedera Hashgraph chart, we've said this break on all this volume is ultimately an initiation into phase 2. Now, with phase 2s, and we'll show you some examples, just like Bitcoin, and we predicted the same thing for Bitcoin that we're predicting today for Hedera Hashgraph, and boy, oh boy, look at how that phase 2 has seen progression. This is why we cover this. People get bored with it. They want all these shiny indicators and bells and whistles, and we'll leave that to the ding-dongs that will never show you any returns. At the peak of this pullback, we were still massively up on our positions. That says it all, because we know how to position in this market and we know when to hold. And this is a long and strong market. Hedera is going to be one of the real winners to come out of this industry, guys. Mark my words on that. It's not even a top 10 yet. It's getting closer and closer. It'll get to the top 10, eventually top 5, in my opinion. So if we look at Bitcoin, phase 1, breakout, retest, and then a double retest before we see that continuation. It's exceptionally common when you take your phase 1 resistance, you flip it into support, breakout, retest. This is what smart money looks for. And Hedera has just done that. Why do you think you've seen the wick that you have? I think there's so much market manipulation going on. Broadly, I think people knew about the tariff announcement. They've ultimately used that to liquidate leverages, leveraged longs. Then they've bought cheaply, understanding what is fundamentally about to take place with the ETFs, etc., 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 etc. You should subscribe to this channel, because we'll help you from being the sacrifice to those institutional, more smarter, informed investors. So, phase 1 into phase 2, confirmed with a breakout and a retest. Let's look at the S&P 500. This was another great example. Again, we predicted all this in 2023. Phase 1, breakout, retest, continuation. Let's look at American superconductors. Phase 1 base, breakout, continuation. There are technical patterns in these phase 1s that it helps us be right or increase our probabilities of being right. We're not going to get into all that. Do become a Patreon, guys. We'll take you under our wing. It is so helpful, I can't overstate this, to be part of a like-minded community of individuals that are level-headed, certainly in catastrophes like what we saw over the past 24 hours. And we've been through them. We've been long and strong in the crypto market since the start of 2023. And we've outperformed what you'd traditionally get out of the markets, and we've got so much more to come. Anyway, enough of the bragging. Phase 1, base, breakout, retest to the point in which you came. So the resistance now flipped into support. Before you see that phase 2 continuation, HubSpot is another good example. We've got more of the sort of broad phase analysis on here. But essentially, base, breakout, retest, continuation. Look at where Hedera Hashgraph is today. Ladies and gentlemen, this is his phase 1 accumulation or Wyckoff schematic. You could look at it through. Then we've had this break on volume. There was potentially continuation pattern before we got the retest. So we didn't have to get the retest. But we have now got that here. So this looked like it could be continuation. That since has been invalidated. So we do need to adjust price predictions on the back end of that. But ultimately, we've had that breakout and that retest. We've always said a retest was on the cards. It looked like we were going to set up for continuation. Instead, we got the retest. There was news that was attached to it. However, this is textbook in regards to how markets move and how an uptrend actually takes place. We've had that initiatory move that took place in December. 700% gain. We give some of that back. We come to that point in which we broke out of phase 1. We're now in phase 2. And like we've just shown you, HubSpot, American Superconductor Corporation, the S&P, and Bitcoin. And I can show you hundreds more examples and I frequently do in my Patreons. This is how markets move. And ultimately, we've got this really broad phase 2 ahead of us. We've still got this double bottom target taking us to just shy of $1. You are going to see all that come to fruition. And what might be the narrative that they've perfectly liquidated retail and bought the dip up on the back end of that sees this phase 2 continuation? The ETFs. We've had the first of Eric Balanchunas and James Seyfart's predictions. And that is a Bitcoin and Ethereum combo ETF. We've had that. That was what they said was going to come first. Then a Litecoin ETF. Litecoin is the furthest ahead in regards to the ETF process. Now with their 19B4 being acknowledged by the SEC, this starts the clock. Then they said Hedera. We've got the same people, and it's the Canary filing that's been recognized. The Canary company have also filed for Hedera ETF. That's likely next. Then you're going to see XRP and Solana. And I actually think we're going to potentially see more inflows in regards to other altcoins than Ethereum. We're already seeing some of them, like XRP, for example, do more than half of Ethereum's volume without even an ETF approved in regards to fund flows. So we cover the markets and understand them through the lens of phase analysis. People think that's boring. They think it's too simple, but it works. And that's why when we have pullbacks like this, we go, okay, where are we pulling back to? It was always a possibility that we're going to pull back to where we broke out from. We've had that. Just look at the wick. Let's actually look at it. This is a weekly candle. Look at that. Let's take all the draws off. Look at that for a candle. Who is buying that? It ain't retail. This has got smart money and institutional manipulation written all over it. And when you understand fundamentally what is coming, some cheap crypto sounded great to them, I'm sure. And they've taken $2 billion worth of retail and drove the prices down, got in cheaper, ready for fundamentally what they're about to enable. All of a sudden, the crypto czar just comes out of nowhere. We're going to hold a press conference tomorrow. Interesting. And what he says, I think, is going to be even more telling. And we'll be streaming that for you guys tomorrow. I think it's 2:30 ET. It's going to be about 8:30 for me, or 8:30 in European time. I'm still sort of a little bit jet lagged there. But it will be, 7:30 for me. So we'll stream that all for you guys, don't worry. But look at this candle. And it just happens to be, or happened to bounce off the point in which you broke into phase 2, which we've shown you is exceptionally common. And you've got this beautiful phase 2 ahead of you. Look at the daily candle. Look at that. I mean, wow. Talk about manipulation. I do truly hope that none of you got caught up in that. This is why we look at the markets through the bigger time frames, is because ultimately we're not really that fussed about the narratives and what happens on the short term. They're just bumps in the road of what is a broader journey or a bit of turbulence on us getting to our destination, which we ultimately think sees Hedera in the multiple dollars. But that's just my own take. Guys, I'm going to love and leave you on that note. Of course, we were going to get an update out for you guys. As always, on trying days like today, hang in there. Focus on the bigger picture. Hedera is my largest position, something I'm very confident on. And I know you guys are as well. That's it from me, guys. I'm going to love and leave each and every one of you. I hope this video helped, and I'll see you all in the next one.